Eastern Iowans considered Western Iowa to be a vast, mysterious wilderness inhabited with vague and dreadful spirits, and the land was unlivable, and it was said that the area would never be worth anything. Well, in 1846, Iowa was admitted as a 26th state of the Union, and Montgomery County was surveyed in 1851 and officially became a county in 1852. In 1854, before the government had time to record the original survey, Pleasant Jones became the first squatter in Red Oak, but the first actual recorded deed was the property of James Schenck. In 1854, the frontier town grew very slowly, and it was said in 1868 there were only about 50 houses in the entire town. Colonel Alfred Heberd is considered to be the father of Red Oak. In 1851, he did a topographical survey for the railroad, mapping out a proposed path for the tracks to follow from Burlington, Iowa, west to the junction of the Platte and the Missouri River. After the Civil War, the Burlington and Missouri Railroad followed the Heberd survey, and in the first train came through Red Oak on November 4, 1869. The steam locomotive hauled a load of lumber for Justice Clark and carried with its passengers his wife, along with other adventurous souls from the civilized East. Posters and flyers were being handed out by the thousands, enticing immigrants and other citizens to go west to the Promised Land. Individuals could buy thousands of acres of excellent farmland and finance it over a period of 10 years with interest at the rate of 6%. The Burlington and Missouri River Railroad Company owned and sold the ground as part of its benefit from building the railroad. Business was brisk at the Vetter's General Store, where locals would meet, buy goods, and sit around the old Cracker Barrel and swap tall stories. Settlers with names like Patrick Rooney from Ireland ran the boarding house and grocery, Eliza Gaff from England farmed Section 12, John Levin from Sweden farmed Section 2, William Bishop of Vermont ran the store of Bishop and Howerton that sold furniture and housing goods. Horace Deemer from Indiana practiced with the law firm of Duncan and Deemer, and G. Lowell from Germany sold fine clothes in the 1860s. There were 7 saloons in Red Oak Junction, and the business was brisk. Red Oak Junction was a hard town, and it had the reputation of being next to Deadwood, South Dakota, the toughest town in the West. Oliver P. Worsley recalled, whenever a rainy day came and the men could not work, they would come to Red Oak Junction, and most of them would get drunk. Fighting would start among them, and citizens swear that there must have been as many as 50 fights in one day. George Brown established an iron foundry and manufactured buggies. Ezra Needles formed the Red Oak Canning Company and can one heck of a lot of corn and peas. Charles Steinbrecher built a brewery in 1870 and was able to turn 3,000 bushels of barley into beer each year. The Replogo brothers created Replogo Mills that produced over 39 different grain products. In 1880, there were 2 banks, 5 dry goods stores, 7 grocery stores, 7 hotels, 6 restaurants, 12 general merchandise stores, 5 drugstores, 5 barbershops, 7 saloons, 4 newspapers, 4 schools, 14 ministers, 20 lawyers, and 16 doctors. Webster Eaton was the founder of the Red Oak Express newspaper, and with his brother established one of the first industries in Red Oak in 1874. They established the Red Oak Pottery Works on East Coolbaugh Street and leased it to W.H. Close in 1880. The factory produced over 1,500,000 bricks from its corncob-fired foundry to help the paving of Red Oak's brick streets. Red Oak Junction was a booming city, and as it sped into the next century, the name Junction was dropped, and the city of Red Oak looked proudly to its future. The city had industry, commerce, schools, churches, civic organizations, and of course, they still had their saloons. In the 1880s, Iowa had a liquor prohibition, and many of the saloons had to shut down. During this prohibition for several years following 1894, not even a billiard hall could get a license to sell alcohol. Even when Red Oak's reputation was considered as rough, the better class of citizens prevailed, and the town became a little more puritanical by the turn of the century. Red Oak was said to have more fine residences and comfortable homes than any other town of its size in the state of Iowa. Red Oak even had its own metropolitan transportation system. It was said that it was a great privilege to ride on the Red Oak streetcar, which was drawn by mules. The car barn was located at Prospect and 6th Street, and the route of the streetcar was along 6th Street, then west on Reed, then south on 4th, then west on Coolbaugh to the west corner of the Washington School, then south to the Depot Hotel. The streetcar was owned by John Bonham, and the fare was 5 cents. The town was booming and preparing to burst into the 20th century. Red Oak was filled with men from the east that pioneered to the west to find fame and fortune. Some of them had also brought some old bad habits, such as chasing a small ball with a stick around a pasture. Without a doubt, many of the beers that old Charles Steinbrecher had brewed on Old 48, just south of the viaduct, were seriously consumed by skillful hackers. In October of 1897, the Red Oak Express printed, "Red Oak has a full-fledged golf club, and in a very short period of time, the field north of the standpipe will resound to the whack of the golf stick." That land was part of Farmers Quimby's acreage and was basically bordered by Chautauqua Park on the south, 8th Street on the west, the cemetery on the north, and Miller on the east. The Express went on to say that the local organization is entirely informal. In order to reduce the expense of learning to play, the golf club is going to cost $1.75, and the balls were about 25 cents apiece. Each player is to have at least one club and several balls. It was also reported that the links will be immediately improved by cutting the weeds. It took the organizers a few years to work out the details, and 4 years later it was reported that Country Club had been formed, and in 1902 arrangements were made to lease Old Man Quimby's 44-acre pasture, and the annual dues were set at $5 per year. The Red Oak Sun proclaimed,
"Golf is a sure go. The golf links have been laid out in the field north of the standpipe and 18 individuals have signified their willingness to tackle the game and sent an order for the usual paraphernalia which will arrive shortly. An additional order will be sent in at an early date and it is probable that a formal organization will be effected. Only 9 links will be used, and the circuit will be made twice in each game."
The club's aspirations were great, and they even engaged the services of an architect from Omaha. He said that the club was one of the best links in the West. It is understood that there has to be room for tennis courts and croquet grounds, and club would contain lockers, toilet rooms, parlor, and would cost between $600 and $700. The club bought a horse-drawn lawnmower, but as lawnmowers go, it did not work worth a damn and eventually broke down. While the West being the West, in 1902, a sheep herder with a drove of sheep wandered into town looking for a place to pasture the sheep. Never passing up an opportunity, the 500 sheep were pastured on the course, and the course got free fertilizer, as well as a good mowing. The Express reported that the result is now, the grass is short. Information about the next 15 years is scarce. Many plans were put on hold due to World War I and Red Oak's unselfish war efforts. Meetings were held starting in 1917 regarding the future of a new club. In March 1919, about 30 members of the club gathered at the Hotel Johnson to draft ground rules and establish regulations for the admission of new members. They also discussed running water for the purposes of keeping the greens in good condition. In July of 1919, they terminated Old Man Quimby's lease, and in December of that same year, the club purchased the 80-acre Tomlinson farm 2 miles east of Red Oak on Bluegrass Road, which is now known as Highway 34 and the current location of the club. In March of 1921, members took a giant leap forward. They engaged the services of Warren Dickinson, civil engineer from Des Moines. Dickinson was a prominent amateur golfer and a civil engineer, and they had him draw up plans and specs for a 9-hole course. He was one of the founding fathers of the Iowa Golf Association and eventually designed over 100 golf courses across the Midwest, including Brooks Golf Course in Okoboji, Grandview Country Club, Woodland Hills, Waveland Golf Course, and the Des Moines and Cedar Rapids Country Clubs. Although he designed the course to run in an east-west fashion and determined that the knoll to the south of the rear of the existing old farmhouse would be ideal for building a clubhouse, the members at this time wanted to design the course in a southeast to northwest layout so the sun would not be in the players' eyes. In the September 26, 1921 edition of the Red Oak Express, it was reported that Gordon Hayes has 16 horses and a number of men busy last week, and in addition, a Fordson tractor was busy, disking and otherwise preparing the course. Over $1,000 of grass seed was used in seeding down the west and the south part of the grounds, and the newly designed course will be about 3,100 yards. The future looked very bright indeed for the club, but financial troubles were right around the corner. Farm prices skyrocketed after the end of World War I, and the Red Oak Country Club purchased the 80 acres at the pinnacle of farm prices. The club members paid $15,000 cash, plus executed a mortgage for $15,000, which worked out to be about $375 per acre. Unfortunately, in 1921 through 1922, the bottom fell out of the farm value market. Government price guarantees for crops and livestock put in place during World War I expired, and supplies were up, crop prices dropped, and so did land values. The Red Oak Country Club's land value dropped to $15,000, the same amount as its mortgage. Although a country club can be spearheaded by a few wealthy individuals, a club can only be grown and maintained by actively recruiting new members. Back east, in the large communities, belonging to a country club was an exclusivity. Basically, if you were not born into wealth or achieved great wealth, you were not considered a candidate for membership in a country club. The immigrants and pioneers who persevered the elements and founded Red Oak were subject to that discrimination back east and would have no part of it in their new community. The club served as a non-religious social hub for the community, a place to play, a place to dance, and a place for friends and enjoy life. When the land crisis hit in the early 1920s, the club faced the reality that the land was not producing anything other than hooks and slices, and was worth less than the mortgage that they had obtained, not to mention the $15,000 of cash equity that had evaporated. The benefactors of the club knew that the rank and file members would be unable to come up with the money if a special assessment was instituted. So this is what they did. 35 members invested $200 each and received stock in the newly created Club Land Company. The Club Land Company would assume the mortgage and, in addition, paid the $4,000 for the improvements on the course. Each of the existing members of the Red Oak Country Club would exchange their membership stock for a membership in the newly formed Oak Hill Country Club, a non-stock company. This prevented the members that did not invest $200 in the Club Land Company from taking advantage of the rising stock value once the club became successful. Membership fee was set at $100, and that money was used as a building fund. Men's dues were set at $25 per year, plus $10 to the building fund. The dues were used for maintenance, rent, and miscellaneous expenses, and to repurchase the land from the Club Land Company. Ladies' dues were set at $10 and an additional $5 for the building fund. It was anticipated that within 5 years, the Oak Hill Country Club would own all the stock in the Club Land Company. As reported in the Red Oak Express,
the country club is located about 2 miles east of the city on a beautiful 80 lying just to the south of the Federal Highway. It is what was once well known as the C.C. Tomlinson Place. The topography is ideal for the purpose. It is flat enough at the northeast corner to accommodate all necessary buildings and playgrounds for the children, and rolling and rugged enough to meet the requirements of the most exacting golfist, golfer, or golfologist. Indeed, it is some climb from the entrance to the grounds at the north, amid the trees which surround the home place of the former owner, to the top of the hill, which arises knoll-like directly to the south and attains an altitude which commands a magnificent view in every direction. This knoll, or more properly, promontory, is the highest spot on not only the whole 80 acres, but it looks down upon all other hills for a number of miles radius, and its crown is broad and commodious, allowing plenty of room for the erection of a large and up-to-date clubhouse, which is one of the important projects of the early future. What was once a big barn has been converted into a cozy and comfortable clubhouse, with a cement floor covered with rugs and laterally filled with comfortable rockers, lounges, settees, tables and other necessary furniture, contributed from the homes of the members. This clubhouse has been very ingeniously adapted to fill every need, and with continuous screened windows on 3 sides to give plenty of air in. Its high second story, once a commodious repository for alfalfa for the lowing cows which found shelter below, keeps the lower floor always cool and comfortable. Convenient toilets and lockers and a small but complete kitchenette are important features of the clubhouse.
The Oak Hill Country Club was faced with barren farm ground that fell from the south to the north with various ravines running through it. The original clubhouse was an old barn and was surrounded by hog sheds and chicken shacks. It was located to the east of the now existing driveway, and it was tucked back into the trees. The old farm residence was located up the hill north and east of the non-existing clubhouse. Members with names like Houghton, Loomis, Murphy and Fisher took their ties off, rolled up their sleeves and started cleaning the area. The ground to the west was already soft ground, and it was determined that is where the temporary course should be constructed. It's thought that in 1921, at the suggestion of Warren Dickinson, that a temporary 6-hole course could be put into play. It was reported that the course was 1,600 yards in length, and it is thought that the first hole ran east to west along Bluegrass Highway, now Old 34. That is where number 17 is today. The Red Oak Express wrote that the temporary course of 6 holes was 1,500 yards. The distance to hole number 1 was 335 yards, to hole number 2, 255 yards, to hole number 3, 200 yards, to hole number 4, 150 yards with many hazards, to hole number 5, 275 yards, and to hole number 6, 225 yards. This course lays very pretty and gives a variety of play. The club members' aspirations were delayed for a few years because of the financial problems and their desire to move forward with a clubhouse to attract more members. The first known club champion, which had a 48-player field, was Harold Boner, and he won by 1 match point. What is known is that in 1923, work was begun on the south and the west portion of the course by tilling, moving dirt, and seeding. This would translate into the current number 10, 11, and 12. In addition to golf being played on the temporary course, the 1924 golf season exploded with the anticipation of a new clubhouse. The Red Oak Sun announced that work had begun on a new clubhouse. It was to be located on the knoll of the hill and south of the existing makeshift facility in the area next to the number 9 green. In August of 1924, the front page of the Red Oak Express featured an article showcasing the new clubhouse and its grand opening on October 31st. The article touted that the clubhouse was one of the best built and equipped clubhouses in towns and even the entire country. The members had contracted with BJ Concrete to construct the building with Adele iron tile, which was a new product on the market. The clubhouse was designed as a 2-story building with a 98 by 41 footprint. The first floor, or basement as the club knows it now, contained a 29 by 46 foot dining room in the middle section. The kitchen was east of the dining room, and a dumb waiter connected the kitchen to the ballroom above. There was a cafeteria counter set up for the thirsty hackers after their round. The west wing was 21 by 23 feet and devoted to the men's lockers and showers. There was space for about 50 lockers, 2 showers, a toilet and lavatory facilities. The men could enter the locker room by an outside door on the north, by a southeast door, a stairway from above or a door from the dining room. A large pressure tank was located under the stair and pumped water from 75 feet below the clubhouse. The ballroom was located directly above the dining room and opened up to the screened porch by means of 5 wide French doors without thresholds. This enlarged the dancing area onto the porch on those warm summer nights. Members collected tons of cobblestones for the 2 fireplaces, which boast of a 10-foot natural walnut mantle. Each of the fireplaces are estimated to weigh over 20 tons each. The floor was of sanded and stained edge-grain yellow pine, and the walls were painted a cream color. The west wing upstairs accommodates the ladies' lounge and also provides for a ladies' locker room, lavatory and shower. These are reached either from the ladies' lounge or from a small outside porch. The east wing provided for a gentleman's card room, cloakroom, and storage. The porches, first and second floors, were 12 by 107 feet. 9 columns support the porch. The veranda was entirely screened. Members took particularly pride in the upper porch, which from its height gave an excellent view of the surrounding country and the city of Red Oak. The building was constructed by the B.J. Concrete Company, under the personal supervision of Charles Barnes, and the architect was E.S. Dodds of Omaha. Tile was furnished by the Adele Clay Products Company of Adele, this being one of the first country clubs constructed of its tile. Trim and millwork were furnished by the Green Bay Lumber Company, plumbing by H.W. Cader, and furnace by the Wenstrom Hardware Company. Wiring was done by Raymond Fulton. The contract cost of the building was $15,000, but this does not include extras such as the furnace, concreting the basement, painting walls, sidewalks, and grading. Plans are now being made for the formal opening to take place October 31st. As a result of the sale of tickets to the banquet and dance, it is expected to dedicate the building entirely free from all debt. It is estimated that 250 to 300 members will be in attendance. The idea of bringing golf to Red Oak had started in 1897, and through the hard work of its citizens had morphed into an impressive clubhouse and members to support the social hub of the town. Work continued on the design of the 9-hole course, and apparently the members returned to the original east to west Warren Dickinson design. In 1927, the full 9 holes, basically as we know it now, came into full play. The Des Moines Register, in its golf comment column, wrote, "An
announcement of the opening of the new Oak Hill Country Club by Wilbur W. Sackett, former Drake golfer, who is now located in Red Oak. The course is a 9-hole layout, 3,301 yards in length, and par is 36. The new course is located at the site of the old Oak Hill Links course, having been rearranged recently by Warren Dickinson, local architect. Creeping bent greens, the smallest of which measures 80 feet to a side, large trees and artificial and natural hazards at every hole are featured on the course. The landscaping of the course has included the setting out of 750 trees, 6,000 shrubs, and numerous flower beds and vines. Nearly a mile of hedge along the roads bordering the grounds has been planted. In addition to its golf facilities, the Oak Hill Club boasts a $25,000 clubhouse, 3 tennis courts, and modern trap shooting equipment. The club has 171 regular members and 75 junior, season and non-resident members.
Even though the Oak Hill Country Club was still facing financial problems, its future forged onward with the hard work of its members. With a newly designed landscape course, a state-of-the-art clubhouse plus hundreds of members, there was golf on the course, jukebox music with dancing through the French doors onto the screened-in porch, and an excellent restaurant. It was now time to relax, sip on a cool one, and plan for the future. Golf is an individual game that is played against the course and the scorecard. It is a competition against self. However, there has been, and will always be, the element of competition to prove, at least for a while, who is the best golfer in your country club. So was and is the case of the Oak Hill, and now the Red Oak Country Club. Each year there are individual players that rise to the top, and for a few years are crowned to be the best player, the champion of all those who play the course. For over 100 years, this honor and recognition has been earned by many golfers. Max Everett Brown was born in 1890 in the small town of Batavia, Iowa. He attended the University of Iowa and then graduated from the Iowa Dental School in 1915 and returned to Southwest Iowa to open a dental office in Red Oak, Iowa, and was one of the members that formed the backbone of the club. In addition to pulling teeth, he also was an excellent golfer. In 1921, he won the first official club championship in a grueling 36-hole match play. It appears that Max had difficulty keeping his golf equipment together, and in the September 5, 1921 edition of the Red Oak Express, in the Lost and Found section, ran an ad stating, "Lost, one mid-iron golf club between Country Club and Prospect Street. Call Max Brown." The club championship was match play, and that tradition prevailed until the late 1950s. In addition to 1921, Max also was crowned club champion in 1924, 1927, and 1930. His main nemesis was talented southpaw Lyman Turner, who was 12 years younger than Max. Turner was born in Cumberland, Iowa in 1902. He attended Wisconsin and Colgate universities where he picked up the game of golf. Turner worked for the American Color Tight Company and then the Murphy Calendar Company and excelled as a southpaw on the golf course. In 1930, Turner was crowned the best left-handed golfer in Iowa by winning the annual State Southpaw Championship in Des Moines. In 1923, he won his first of his 6 club championships. For the next 11 years, the two competitors dominated the Oak Hill Championship, with Brown winning in 1921, 1924, 1927, and 1930. Turner mastered the honors in 1923, 1925, 1926, 1928, 1929, 1932, and reclaimed the title in 1941. The Oak Hill Country Club continued to persevere through the Great Depression that, in part, was fueled by the drop in land and commodities value starting in the early 1920s, not to mention Black Monday in 1929. Oak Hill's anticipation of dramatically increasing the membership fell behind, as did other clubs in the country, due to the rocky economic conditions. In spite of those problems, champions were still crowned. It appears that starting in 1942, the club championships were suspended due to World War II. Not only were Red Oak citizens and Oak Hill's club members heading up scrap metal drives, golf balls were getting hard to find, not because they were lost, but they were in shortage due to rubber needed for the war effort. In fact, in 1942, the government prohibited the production of metal-shafted woods and irons because the metal was necessary for the shell casing of bullets for war. The Great War finally ended in September of 1945, and so started the golden years of golf at the Red Oak Country Club, which was renamed after the Clubland Company was fully paid off in 1942. War-tested and trained young men were getting jobs, going to school, raising families and socializing all over the country. Red Oak was no exception. In 1946, a young veteran hailing from Missouri got a job as a hardware nuts and bolts traveling salesperson. His route included Clarinda Atlantic and Red Oak. When he checked into Red Oak's famous Johnson Hotel, the first question he asked was which town had the best golf course. When the answer was, of course, Red Oak, he decided to pick up roots and move to his new hometown, Red Oak. Victor had already won the club championship in his old hometown of Columbia, Missouri in 1939 before the war, and was ready for his second. In the fall of 1946, Victor promptly won the club championship and began an astonishing feat of winning a club championship in 7 consecutive decades. In 1946, the post-war Red Oak Country Club added Gerald Hall, pro, to its staff, and what a way to kickstart the club. Hall was an excellent golfer, but even a better promoter, and on top of that, was just one of the guys. Hall was the club pro, the club manager, and the greenskeeper, as well as giving free golf lessons to the high schoolers. Hall spent a lot of his time mowing and keeping the course in tip-top shape. When the time came to pile the driveway and parking lot for events, such as New Year's Eve celebrations, it was Gerald to drive the plow to open the club for fun for all. In 1946, Bill Victor won his first Red Oak Club championship by beating Bert Belt. Victor followed that up in 1947 by beating Belt again. In 1948, Harold Kozad was crowned the club champion. The homegrown champ eventually owned Jesson's Clothing and was one of the best-dressed golfers the club has ever seen. In the late 1940s, the game of golf became even more accessible to the public, and it was common for golf professionals to barnstorm small towns, promote the game, and pick up a nice fee as well. Many golf pros and trick shot artists visited the Red Oak Country Club, such as Count Yogi, Jim Ferrier, and famous trick shot artist Paul Hahn. One of the premier lady golfers, Patty Berg, was a founding member and the first president of the LPGA, and her 15 major title wins remains the all-time record for most major wins by a female golfer. In 1949, Berg visited Red Oak to give an exhibition and play a round of golf with the 1946 and 1947 champion Bill Victor and the 1948 champ Harold Cozard. The event was promoted by Gerald Hall and attracted a gallery of over 200 spectators. Cozard and Berg won the match 3-2. Many years ago, while cleaning up the locker room at the clubhouse, some 8mm video film was discovered. Somehow, it made it into Gerald Hall's hands and his dry sense of humor. The following is believed to be a videotape conversion of the film of Patty Berg visiting the Red Oak Country Club in 1949.
Her visor shot as she turns to the left to make it hook. And when she wants to play, she takes it off and hits it right down the middle. Once again, for anyone that might have the stomach to view this film, we'll let them try to identify the folks in the background. Remember, this is almost 35 years ago, and in a very highly Republican area of Montgomery County, these things were hard to keep hidden. The fact that this particular facility was operating under the guise of the Red Oak Country Club, a golfing facility. But as you'll see as we go through this film, the people who were attempting to play the game of golf had to be somewhat cuckoo, because with their swings they'd never make it. Patty Berg putting on her little putting green exhibition. This is up on the number 9.
The parade of golf promoters and pros continued to visit, entertain, and instruct the members of the club. But that doesn't mean the members did not have a lot of fun. Led by Gerald Hall dressed up in his kilt, the club held a Pro Appreciation Day with a 2-ball mixed foursome tournament with many golfers decked out in costumes. When it came time for winter sledding, members used the rolling hills from hole number 1 to the highway for their adventurous trip, complete with hot toddies afterward. The Houghton boys, Cole and Deemer, normally had a lock on the annual ping pong tournament with tables set up in the ballroom and screened in porches. And there was Women's Bridge Days, which is still going on today. They still have not finished it. There was always something going on to entertain the members and community. Before the introduction of videotape, fax machines, computers, cell phones, and now smartphones, there was much more of a community feeling. Members were proud of their beautiful golf course and fine restaurant and looked forward to meeting their friends at the course and bar. Bill Victor was still the best golfer at the club, that is, until a young World War II veteran, Jim English, moved to Red Oak to sell insurance in 1950. That was the beginning of the golden age of the country club. English won his first Red Oak Championship in 1950, and the top amateur additionally won the 1950 Iowa Masters and the 1950 Trans-Mississippi Championship. Other winners of the Trans-Mississippi Tournament, which was first held in 1901, has been Jack Nicklaus, Ben Crenshaw, and Bryson DeChambeau. It is said that the only reason English did not win the Iowa Amateur was that he never played in it. English also won the 1951 and 1952 Red Oak Country Club Championship. In 1951, the 25-year-old English torched the front 9 of the Red Oak Country Club with a 28. That record has held up for 73 years and might as well be written in stone. He played with Harold Cozard, the 1948 champ, who was bested by 9 strokes. Even more remarkable was that it was with equipment from the 50s and old Balata golf balls. English moved to Kansas in 1953 and then to Colorado Springs, Colorado. English's more than 90 tournament victories included the state's top amateur events. In 1959, he became the first amateur to win the Colorado Open. He qualified for the United States Open 9 times, and he was the tournament's low amateur in 1959, beating out someone named Jack Nicklaus. After his 1991 club championship, Bill Victor, in his normal, humble way with drink in his hand, told a group admirers that the best golfer he ever knew was Jim English. English's final defense of the club champion came in 1952 after beating Bill Victor in the 2 previous years. Lurking in the background was a 13-year-old kid born in 1938 named Billy Sutton. Sutton had already played in the 1951 Iowa State Junior Golf Tournament when he was 12 years old and won the 4th flight. Sutton would become an all-around athlete, but golf was his game. As reported by the August 18, 1952, Red Oak Express,
Billy Sutton has been the tournament's giant killer. The 13-year-old youngster, who enters Red Oak High School this fall, has been shooting consistently around the 36 par mark in tournament play and has thrown in a couple of subpar 35 rounds for good measure.
Sutton beat Kozad to face English. In the end, it was too much for the 13-year-old, and English won the Match Play Club Championship by a score of 14-12. That was Sutton's first attempt, but not his last. Sutton led her 2 years in basketball and football, and naturally led her in all 4 years for golf, and was district medalist in 1953, 1954 and 1955. 12-year-old Billy had now grown into 6'2" Bill and was the giant. The rest of the 1950s became a slugfest between Bill Victor and Bill Sutton and his high school classes, with Victor winning in 1953, 1956, 1957, and Sutton in 1954, 1955, 1958, and 1959. Sutton was the 1956 salutatorian of his graduating class and went to college at the University of Iowa. He was a member of ROTC and excelled at flying helicopters. After Sutton won the 1959 club championship, he played in the first ever Tournament of Champions held in Atlantic. Bill Sutton, being born in 1938, was part of the silent generation, while most of the golfers at the club were part of the greatest generation. The baby boomers might have had their first swings on the playground equipment. They were getting ready to be the golfers of the future, if the only could beat their fathers. The boomers were being taught the game by their parents, club pros like Gerald Hall, Johnny Morrison, Bod Petruka, and Johnny Peters. Even before the swimming pool was built, the kids were dropped off in the morning and spent the days playing golf, and on Wednesday, Saturdays, and Sunday mornings, caddying for fathers or friends. In 1955, the Red Oak Express ran a photo of some kids sitting on the steps after a youth tournament. 3 of the 5 became club champs in later years. You might recognize Gary Brower, who had 11 club championships, Marshall Victor, who had 2 club championships, and Dave Seligren, who had 1. Dave's father, Stubb, won the club championship in 1940, 1949, 1960, and 1961. Although the course basically remained in its original configuration, some sand traps were added, and head pro Gerald Hall contemplated changing hole number 5 and 6.
Hall contemplates eliminating the par 3 5th hole in its present location and converting it into a dogleg with a par 4. The tee-off would be in the same spot, but the green would be about 40 yards in front of the number 6 driving point, just west of where the woodman operated on a couple of trees over a year ago. Number 6 tee-off would be moved east of the proposed number 5 green, by the north-south ditch, with the par for the hole cut from 4 to 3.
In 1953, the club unfortunately bid goodbye to head pro Gerald Hall, who moved to California. Although sad, the club members continued their desire to make improvements to encourage new members and grow the club. At the end of the 1955 golf season, the board decided that it was time to freshen up the club after over 30 years of hard but fun use. As reported in the Red Oak Express, it was all hands on deck.
A similar result has been in evidence at the Red Oak Country Club. While it is a private club, many of our citizens are members. It is a home club where members join for golf, dances, dinners, and social events. It has been quite a job to meet the rather heavy expenses and maintain the property on the very moderate dues that are charged. Built in the 20s, the big 2-story iron tile building has stood the wear and tear rather well. But there has been wear, and furniture has deteriorated. So the younger members took the matter in hand. They raised some money. The women, in social affairs, had netted a profit for the club. So materials were bought, and the younger crowd went to work with a will. They got started and carried the project through under the leadership of Bruce Van Druff and Bill Victor. Sorry we don't have all the names of the scores of workers. The whole inside was paneled with wood. New lighting fixtures were made of wagon wheels. The speakers for the round and square dance music were inset in the 3 large beams built into the ceilings, and it was surprising how much talent was developed. Some of these young men were right-handy with tools and power saws. In the membership are some fair to middling mechanics and carpenters, radio men and electricians. Oh yes, some of them were professionals, but they gave their labor with a will, and the clubhouse looks better than it ever did. Only by so doing could the work have been possible. It was to do it themselves, or do without. So they did it the American way. No government help, no loans. And they plan to do some exterior painting when the weather is right.
In 1957, the club invested in a 38,000-gallon water tank as part of a complete sanitary system. It was filled by the club's well and was used for the clubhouse, watering greens and fire protection. Gerald's Hall's tradition of giving the kids and members golf lessons continued by the club pros such as Johnny Peters, as well as Bill Victor, Stubbs Seligren and Eddie Collins. Red Oak High School always had an active boys and girls golf program that continues on today. If it wasn't golf, the kids were kept busy by spending the day by the new swimming pool, gathering at sunset picnics, 4th of July fireworks, snipe hunts, and even at trying their hands and feet at many square dance nights at the club's ballroom.
Right out to the right of the ring, you circle 4 in the middle of the floor. Number 3, hold up and through, go 4. You turn right around and you go back through. Now tie the knot like the cowboys do. Now circle 6. You circle 6 in a pretty little fix. Now 4, hold up and through, go 6. Now turn right around and you go back through. Now tie the knot like the cowboys do.
In 1963, the club decided to expand the fun and initiated the largest renovation since the club was built. The 205 shareholders voted to approve a renovation to the almost 40-year-old club facilities.
Major features of the project include complete remodeling of the clubhouse, widening of the upstairs porch to serve as the dining area, moving the kitchen from downstairs to upstairs, moving the men's locker room to the area formerly used by the kitchen and pro shop, remodeling of the women's locker room to include space formerly used by the men's and women's locker rooms, established a pro shop and recreation area in the former dining room, and air conditioning. A separate contract for the construction of a swimming pool would be let in the near future.
Although the 1950s remodeling of the clubhouse was a much-needed refresher of the facility, the 1960s project was a major step in transforming the club into a masterpiece. Even though outside construction contracts were let, a lot of the labor was supplied by the members, just like in the 1920s and the 1950s. The area where the current kitchen is had been converted to living space and a home for the managers. In its place, the downstairs kitchen moved up to the east wing of the upstairs, and in place of the kitchen, the men's locker room was moved and expanded. The ladies' locker room was moved down to the first floor to its current location. There are recollections of an Art Deco bar that had been apparently located in the area where the current restrooms are situated. The entire second floor was extended 4 feet on the north side, and a modern sunken bar was constructed so the new thirsty golfers could drink a cool one while watching fellow members finishing up their round before heading to the 19th hole. In addition, a new clover-shaped swimming pool and wading pool was installed for the increasing membership. The area in which the old restaurant was located was turned into the kids' area with ping-pong tables, dance floor and phonograph, where the Beach Boys could be heard playing all summer long. It was a typical schedule for the old new club with men's day on Wednesday, couples golf on Friday, Saturday golf, and of course, Sunday morning breakfast starting at sunrise, complete with a full menu and even some Bloody Marys. The one rule that all kids and junior golfers learned, sometimes the hard way, was that Thursdays were Women's Day, and that meant no golf for kids or any male human beings. From the very beginning of golf in Red Oak, women have been an essential building block of its growth. Just as it has been the community meeting place for men, it has also been spearheaded by the fairer sex. They have been involved since 1897 and have actively and competitively tackled the always frustrating game of golf. The first version of the club that chased golf balls around on Old Man Quimby's pasture had 35 men and 8 ladies memberships at $5 and $2.50 respectively. Ladies were able to play before they could vote. The new clubhouse that was built in 1924 had a dedicated ladies' lounge, locker room, lavatories and showers. The Red Oak Country Club was definitely not an exclusive men's club. In 1921, Cecil T. Hall became the first Red Oak Country Club ladies champion. Although the title changed hands over the next few years, Ethel Morris won her first ladies championship in 1925. Ethel was the director of the choir of the First Congregation Church for over 50 years, as well as dominating ladies golf. With the exception of 1927, Ethel won the title from 1925 to 1933, and again won it in 1937. Not only did she have the voice of an angel, she had the talents of a goddess. Records are scarce between 1938 and 1946, probably due to the National Depression and World War II. Just as the country was getting back on its feet, the ladies' golf was set for a full recovery. The 50s gave way to the 60s, and the club champions continued to win. Darwin "Stubby" Sellegren, founder of the Sellegren Funeral Home, had already won the club championship in 1940 and 1949 and reasserted himself as one of the best and won the 1960 and 1961 championship. He lost the honors to his son Dave Sellegren in 1962. Bill Victor had last won the championship in 1957, but came storming back with championships in 1963, 1964, 1965, and 1966. Marshall Victor, Bill's son, had been playing for the Iowa State golf team and still was a family member at the Red Oak Country Club. In 1967, he beat Ed Collins on the 5th hole of a sudden death playoff to keep the trophy in the Victor family. Marshall won the title again in 1969 by shooting a 6 under par 102 for 27 holes and besting Dr. Kenneth Anderson by 9 strokes. Continuing the trend of homegrown champs, Gary Brower had a strong second place showing in 1965, but was bested by Victor. Gary had been playing for the Northern Iowa University golf team. Brower's mother and father were very good golfers, and the genes were spectacularly passed down to their son. Brower, the 1963 homecoming king, had lettered in football, basketball, track, and, of course, golf, as he graduated in 1963. With a swing as smooth as silk, Brower won the first of his 11 club championships in 1971 by shooting a 3 under par 105, besting Victor by 5 shots. This started a string of wins in 1971, 1972, 1973, 1974, before losing to Victor in 1975. Brower bested Victor by shooting an 8 under par 136 for 36 holes to win by 9 strokes in 1976 to recapture the title. There is never a good way to summarize a narration of the historical perspectives of any organization. Mark Twain once allegedly said, "History does not repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes," and that seems to fit Red Oak. Although the scope of episode 1 of this series traced history and the members up to 1974 may signify the first half a century of the Red Oak Country Club iron-tiled clubhouse, there is still another 50 years that remain to be told. History is made every day, every week, every month and year, and there has been approximately 36,527 days passed since the 1924 grand opening celebrations. There are many new stories to be told, such as the acquisition 37 years ago of the acreage used to develop the old back nine and all of the tales and heroics generated by play. There was the construction of an expanded cart shed because every member seemed to have a cart, and that did away with the young kids caddying for their father on Saturday and Sunday morning. The old original tennis courts that were located in the back 40 parking lot had disappeared many, many years ago and were replaced by a tennis facility down by the cart shed. The clubhouse that was remodeled in the mid-60s was refreshed in 2000 with the relocation of the bar from the southwest corner to where it is now, plus the members purchased all new furniture to replace the well-used tables and chairs. The club became the premium venue for the members and citizens of Red Oak to have their weddings, wakes, reunions, graduation parties, and all kinds of social events. Organizations from all over southwest Iowa determined that the Red Oak Country Club golf course was the exceptional venue to handle their fundraising events, and a good time was guaranteed for all. The Red Oak Club hosted the Iowa Women's Senior Amateur Championship in 2000 and received statewide accolades for the course and its facilities. But once again, it was the golf course that was the major draw and profit maker. It is easy to feel that we are living with ghosts and characters from the last 100 years while being caretakers of this wonderful clubhouse. It is appropriate before landing this plane to recognize the generations of golfers, both living and past, that made an extraordinary historical impact on the game of golf in Red Oak.
it went straight down the middle. Then it started to hook just a wee, wee bit. And that's when my caddy lost sight of it. That little white pellet has never been found to this day. But it went straight down the middle, like they say. Whack down the fairway, it went smack down the fairway. Then it started to slice just a smidge off line. It headed for 2, but it bounced off 9. My caddy says, long as you're still in the state, you're okay. Yes, it went straight down the middle, quite a way. The sun was never brighter, the greens were never greener, and I was never keener to play. I heard it ping down the middle, it went zing down the middle. Oh, the life of a golfer is not all gloom. There's always the lies in the locker room. And I'm in my glory when wrapped in a towel I say that it went straight down the middle today. The life of a golfer is not all gloom, though they charge you for listening in the locker room. But I'm in my glory when wrapped in a towel I say that it went straight down the middle. Where it wound up is a riddle, but it went straight down the middle.